recording. So yes, as I mentioned, the book is Foundation of Economics by Parkin, and the economics is all about business and life, and also the basis of many courses in life. So it also contains much of the conceptual material necessary for intelligent understanding of business life. So the approach in this course to the teaching of economic principles is to try to ensure that the students acquired a necessary conceptual apparatus in a way that is both challenging and interesting. So we want to make it as interesting as possible, and we'll try to still use your experience, the practical examples, and make it as lively as possible with the video clips we show, concepts that we do discussions on, and panel discussions and everything, so it makes it interesting. And at the same time, you'll be challenged by courses, by assignments, by projects, and questions posed to you. So this is done by attempting to ensure that the material is presented in a lively manner. So we use examples and then the economic analysis of business problems with a special emphasis on the function and determination of market prices in production and consumption. We talk about supply and demand. What do we need by supply and demand? Price theory, production theory, trade theory, is reference to the global economy, the effects of tax and other policies in the economy, and essential elements of banking system and monetary system are also addressed. Can everybody hear me? Can everybody hear me loud and clear? Okay, I think for those of you who do not hear me, it's again because of your microphone. Maybe you can log out, log back in, or check your speaker and microphone and see what's going on with it. Because it seems everybody else is hearing me. Okay, the course objective. We want to understand and be able to apply the concepts of supply, demand, equilibrium, and other factors that shift supply and demand to analyze behavior of real markets when conditions change. So we have been hearing about all these concepts a lot since every one of us has been involved in business in many respects. So for sure we've heard all these topics, but it's important to be able to analyze them, to understand them, and apply them to the real life, to understand the changes in the market, to understand what's going on and what doesn't. Can everyone who can hear me just verify again? Mr. Huparia, can you hear me? Okay. Mr. Miyako, can you hear me? Yes. Mr. Navabi, can you hear me? Okay. How about Mr. Muhammad Aziz? Can you hear me? Mr. Muhammad Aziz, can you hear me? Oh, yeah. Okay, you told me yes. Okay, good. So everybody should be able to hear me then. Okay, sounds good. So the equilibrium and like these factors that will affect and influence the supply and demand and the analysis of it, and it's really important because a lot of times we see business individuals that try to predict the market, what's going to happen, what has happened, to try to understand it. They just use their common sense, but it's really helpful as a business professional to understand exactly what's going on. So when something happens in the market, in the economy, you are able to understand it and really analyze the market the way you should. That way you will be able to basically utilize these knowledge in order to benefit from it, right? So if you know that certain trend in the market is going to appear, if certain demand is facing up, is showing up, then you would be able to act accordingly and get some profit out of it. So it's really important to know what's going on in the market and basically be able to analyze it. That's the usefulness of economics. It helps you and equips you with the knowledge that you require to understand what's going on in the market. Then you analyze the impacts of restricting markets from reaching the competitive equilibrium through price control, taxes, and subsidies. So all these are happening in every government, in every economy, in every market. All these factors exist. So whether we know about it and are able to take actions accordingly or not, that's the question. And that's what business economics can help us. We will be able to understand what's the result of taxes. When the government introduces taxes, like extra taxes, how is it going to affect our business? Or when they are providing subsidies, how it's going to affect the market? And what if they take it out? Can we always rely on the government subsidies, or are they going to go away sometime? So then you understand the difference between monopoly markets and competitive markets. What's the meaning of monopoly market? You've been hearing about it in the news, in the market, dealing with companies like Microsoft, Google. You hear that these guys have monopoly or whatever type of exclusive market. And what do we mean by competitive market? What's the benefit of monopoly? What's the benefit of competitive market? What are the disadvantages of those? So we're going to cover those topics. Understand the nature of production in modern economy. What's the role and nature of production? What do we mean by production? What's the definition of production in new market? And be able to identify the profit maximizing price and relationship between types of costs. So, what I like to for students to have as a takeaway from this course is appreciation of the power of economic reasoning and understanding the current events. Because events are happening, but whether we are able to analyze them with an economic perspective, with an economic glasses, wearing an economic glasses, what do we see? A facility for analyzing everyday economic problems using basic economic analysis. And then understanding of the concepts of supply and demand. What do we mean by supply? What do we mean by demand? How do they affect the market? How do they affect the sales or the profit that you can make in your business? So all these are going to be covered in this course. Then the cost and the benefits of their multiple applications. And then the appreciation of the role of money in the economy. What is the role of money in the economy? How money has a determinant role in the economy and how it affects other aspects of the economy. Then dangers of inflation. You have inflation every now and then. So how does it affect the market? How does it affect our economy? The importance of free trade. We talk about free trade every day. We talk about globalization. We say should be free trade. A lot of countries have decided to have free trade with others. There are treaties like NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, that basically enhance the free trade, or ASEAN, the Asian, like those countries in Southeast Asia, that they have that free trade agreement. So what are the benefits of these kind of agreements? Why should we have free trade? I mean, how does it benefit us? The limits of regulation. I mean, how far a government or a market can be regulated? Should it be regulated or not? What are the benefits? What are the drawbacks? And then the effects of taxes and subsidies of different types. So we have different types of taxes, different types of subsidies, and what are the benefits and drawbacks of all of them? So basically, that's what we are going to cover in this course. And for your assignment, for your project. I'll give it to you next few weeks. I'll give you a detailed project that gives you the exact assessment for the course. So far, is there any questions? Any questions? No questions. Okay. So then let's go ahead to the slides. So introduction. Principle of economics. So the principles of economics. A household and an economy faces many decisions. Who will work? What goods and how many of them should be produced? What resources should be used in production? And at what price should the goods be sold? So these are the questions that you would ask yourself when you're making a decision. When you're facing an economic decision, a household, a person from a family will ask, who should work in the family? That's a good question to ask. A lot of families, only one person or a couple people work, and the rest are just consumers. Some families, everybody in the family is working. So this is a very important decision for you to make, because that will define how the household, how the family is going to survive, how the family is going to economically succeed or fail. So because your decision is actually very important, because if there's only one person working, so the work should be well enough, good enough to cover for the expenses and to furnish the demands of all the family members. If the person who's working is not making enough to cover all those expenses, just one person working is not a good economic decision. So that is an important question you got to ask yourself as a household. Then what goods and how many of them should be produced? When you are working, you are producing, what goods should you produce? How many of them should you produce? And what resources should you use for your production? And what price is a fair price for you to sell those? Then we have society and its scarce resources. So the management of society's resources is important because resources are scarce. This is the first rule in economics. So scarcity. Scarcity means the society has limited resources and therefore cannot produce all goods and services people wish to have. This is rule number one of economics. Why do we have prices? Why do we have demand? Why do we have all these, like you have to pay for something, you have to, why something is worth that price? Because that is scarce, because there is a limited number of those products or resources out there, so you cannot just give them out for free. You need to use your resources effectively. You got to use as much as you need, and you got to pay for it. So that's the rule number one in economy. You try to manage the society's resources because they're not unlimited resources out there. So that's very important to know. Economics is the study of how society manages its scarce resources. How do people make decisions? People face trade-offs. The cost of something is what you give up to get it, and rational people think at the margin, and people respond to incentives. All these are economic terms that we need to familiarize ourselves with. What do we mean by trade-off? That is an important question, and it requires some good explanation. So basically, trade-off is when you trade something for something else. And this is very important to understand that in economic perspective, we are always trading off something for something else. How? Does anybody want to explain that? Any answers from you guys? Who wants to say how we do trade-off? What do we mean by trade-off in economy? I want you guys to participate. I don't want you to be only talking in the comments. So, Miss Oria, would you want to tell us what do you think about trade-off?
Good trade-off.
Mrs. Oria, would you want to tell us what do we mean by trade-off in economy? Or maybe if you're not ready, who wants to do that? Sir Miyako or Sir Nawabi, Sir Muhammad Aziz? Would you want to tell us? Are you guys following me? The question is, what do we mean by trade-off in business economics? Any suggestions, any ideas? I mean, what do you understand from trade-off? Just whatever you think about, just tell me. When I say there's trade-off in business economics, what comes to your mind? Mr. Miyako, would you want to tell us? Nobody wants to participate? Are you guys listening? Okay, can you give me an example? Can you give me an example of trade-off? Well, trade-off, what we exactly mean by trade-off means that you trade something for something else. How? Let's say when you are purchasing a product, you're trading off your money for that product. So you're giving out money and get that other thing. When you are spending time on a project to get the project done, you're trading off your time or other resources that you're using, and in return, you're working on a project and you want to have it done. When you're attending this class, the business economy class, you're trading off attending any other thing that you could do with attending the class. So instead of watching a movie, instead of attending another class, instead of sleeping, instead of working, right now you decide to attend the business economy class. So you traded off anything else. You just gave it away, and you decided to attend this business economics class. So that is called trading off. So the principle of business economics is focusing on that fact, It's telling you, it's highlighting to you that please know and keep in mind and consider any moment you're doing a transaction, a business transaction, or a business life, I mean, any aspects of your business life, you are trading off something for something else. If you're parking on a spot, you're trading off parking in any other parking spot and choosing that parking spot. This is very simple, but it is so easy to miss, and that's a very fundamental, important aspect of business economics. So I want to highlight it as much as I can. So the cost of something in that sense is not just the price you're paying for it. That's the beauty of it. When somebody tells you how much you bought your car, let's say, and then you tell that person, okay, I paid $20,000 to purchase this car. So it's not the only cost you incurred for that car. The cost of getting that car is also the cost that you paid not to get that other car, or the cost you paid to spend time, go to the car dealer, get the car, purchase the car, or finance the car. So your time, your chances of getting other cars, your focus in research, all these are other parts of that cost. You cannot just say, I paid this much and that's the only cost. Or when you say, when you start a new job, and then the new job, they tell you how much does it cost you. Let's say you went for a training for that job. You just say, okay, I did get a training and that's the cost. But the cost of getting that job is not necessarily just getting that training or paying for that training. It would be not being paid and not having a certain job for that period of time. Not the cost of not taking any other job other than that job. The time you spent on taking that course, your commitment, all those are part of the cost you pay. So then you understand in business economics, the cost is not the money you pay. The cost has way more associations to it. So the rational people think at the margin. You see, margin becomes an important factor in business economics and business economic understanding. You want to know what is the margin, what's the benefit. By margin, you mean benefit. Means you have the cost and you have what you get. So the difference of what you pay and what you get, pay not necessarily money, as I said. That margin is that benefit, that the net benefit you get from something. It's called margin. So in business economics, we're talking about margins. You're not talking about cost. You're not talking about anything else other than margin. What's the margin in, right? So that's the term we want to use. So people respond to incentives. Of course, there's incentives, but what you need to understand is what's the margin in it. Okay? Any questions so far? Okay, so our next topic is how people interact with each other. So one of the ways people interact is by trading. And trading can help people better off. Does everybody hear me? Can everybody hear me, please? I need a confirmation. Who cannot and who can hear me? Okay. Mr. Miyako, can you hear me? Yes. Mr. Mama Aziz, yes. Shkubaria, okay. So, how people interact with each other. So, one of the ways that people interact is trading off, is doing trade, and they're better off that way. So, what do we mean by that? There was a time back in the day when everybody would do everything. Like you would do what the tailor does. You would do what the dry cleaner does. You would do what your let's say restaurant or food preparer does. You would do what your you know, driver does. You had to do everything to survive, like at the beginning of the society. So every single person had to do everything in order to satisfy their needs. Yes, it's even beyond multitasking. It means that you had to satisfy all your demands yourself because there was not any trade back then, right? But then people realized it's better if I be a tailor, you would be the driver, that other guy be my tax accountant, that other guy be my other thing. So anybody just focuses on a certain job. And then what's the benefit of it is, I'll do the tailoring, and then I can trade with you with something else. Or I can give you food in return. You would help me sew my clothes. So you see, there was a trading going on. So this way, people can save their time, focus on what they're good at, and they would all better off. They would all benefit from it. So markets are basically where all these happens at. The market is where the trade-off happens. So the economic activities will be organized and managed in the market. And governments can sometimes improve economic outcomes. I mean, a lot of times they mess it up, but sometimes they can improve it. But in American perspective, we believe that government has to have the least amount of involvement in economic activities in the market. So the less involvement from the government, the better the market. So the more involvement means the more your market will be messed up. The forces and trends that affect how the economy as a whole works is the standard of living depends on countries' production. This is an important and very, very important aspect of economy and how governments and how people compare the services and everything to each other. So basically, standard of living in a country is based on the production. So if the country has a good production, the standard of living is high. If the country does not produce that much, the standard of living is low. So the prices rise and the government prints too much money. These are all economic principles and how economy as a whole works. So when government prints too much money, the prices rise. Why? Because the value of money, the value of the currency goes down. So society faces a short-run trade-off between inflation and unemployment. Inflation has an important impact on employment. And we have higher inflation, we have higher unemployment. Lower inflation has a lower unemployment. This is also very important. So going back to the trade-off, you get back to this rule number 1. There's no such a thing as a free lunch. Even when you are getting a free lunch, you're trading it off with getting something else or doing something else, or basically having lunch means you're spending your time. When you are having a free lunch with someone, you're not doing what you could do that moment, and instead of doing anything else, you decide to have a free lunch. So there's a cost involved in that. So as a person who understands business economics, you got to look at that everything with economics principles and economics perspectives. To get one thing, you usually have to give up other things. So guns versus butter, food versus clothing, leisure time versus work, efficiency, and equity. So making decisions requires you don't get something and then go get something else. This is what we mean by trade-off. So efficiency versus equity. Efficiency means society gets the most that it can from its scarce resources. And equity means the benefit of those resources are distributed fairly among the members of society. Right? So when we talk about efficiency, we mean that society is getting the most from those resources, as much possible, as much as possible that it is. They get those resources. So that's called efficiency. But by equity, it's talking about the fairness of distribution between members of society. Yeah, food versus clothing, the example means that if you have $100 and if you decide to use that $100 to go to a fancy restaurant, then you do not have that $100 because you go and pay $100 to go to a very fancy restaurant with your wife, with your fiance, or with your friends or whoever. But if you use that $100 and purchase a suit for yourself or a shoe, you don't have that $100. So when you pay $100 for food, you decided to spend that money on food rather than on your clothing. Or when you pay that for your clothing, you decided to spend that money for your clothing rather than your food. So there's always a trade-off. That's how it is. Okay. So first of all, to cost of something is what you give up to get it. This is important. This is how we define the cost. I was just telling you, like the cost of a car is not just the money you pay. It's all the things that you give up to get that car. Your time, your your resources, whatever you use in order to get that car. It's part of the cost of that car. So decisions require comparing costs and benefits of alternatives. Yeah, that's true, Mr. Miyaho. That's a good saying. So you always want to compare the costs and benefits. Where to go to college or to work, where to study, or to go out on a date, where to go to class or sleep in. You see, if you want to go to college, then you don't work. If you work, you go to college. I mean, you could work part-time and then go to college. But what I mean is when you decide something, it limits your ability to do something else. When you go to college, you cannot work full-time because you're going to college. So whether you go to college or to work, or whether you study home, or you go out on a date, or you go to class or sleep in. I hope you don't do that for our class, but some people will decide to do that. The opportunity cost that I was talking about of an item is what you give up to obtain that item. So the opportunity cost for you to attend this class is for going to sleeping, working, doing anything else, eating, spending time with family. You decide to attend this class. That's the opportunity cost you pay for. I'm just giving an example of this, like attending the class. The opportunity cost would be not sleeping, not working, not doing anything else rather than the class. So the cost is actually what you forgo. Those stuff that you're not doing that you could have done is actually the cost of attending this class. So any Lakers basketball star, Kobe Bryant, chose to skip college and go straight from high school to pros, and where he has earned millions of dollars. So if you watch basketball, and if you ever watch Lakers, there's a guy who they say is the Michael Jordan of the time. His name is Kobe Bryant. What he did, he decided not to go to college and play basketball. He makes millions of money, and that's what he made out of that decision. But just going to basketball team is not all the cost that he incurred. He could have been a doctor, he could have been anything else, but he decided to be a basketball player. So as you can see, the cost is not just what you see at the surface level. It could be way more than that. Now let's discuss about marginal changes. Those are small incremental adjustments for an existing plan of action. People make decisions by comparing costs and benefits and margins. So margins, when we discuss everything in economics or economic level, you got to understand we're talking about margin levels. So it's not a matter of millions of dollars and stuff like that. It's a matter of very marginal changes. So a very marginal change in difference is the cost you pay or the benefit that you get. So we're talking about margins when it comes to business economics. You're not necessarily talking about millions of dollars. The benefit could be just margin, or the cost could be margin. Okay, any questions so far? Margins are, we will discuss that in more detail later on, but as I said, margins are very small incremental adjustments or changes, like the very small change that you get, small extra benefit that you get, or extra cost that you get. You're talking about margins. You're introducing a concept of margin because a lot of times we're looking for vast differences or extreme differences. But in business economics, you need to realize and learn that margins are what we should look at. For you to make a decision, a business economic decision, you should look at the marginal benefit or cost, a very minor difference. But that should also be a determinant in your decision. That's what we mean. Marginal changes in cost or benefits motivate people to respond. So the decision to choose one alternative over another occurs when the alternative's marginal benefit exceeds its marginal cost. So there we go. We're getting somewhere. We're looking at the marginal difference, marginal benefit, marginal cost. All those differences are what makes people decide to choose this business economical decision or the other one. Whether to do this, whether to buy that product or the other product, whether to attend this class or another class, whether to go work or to college, whether to buy this food or buy this pair of shoes. So you see, there's stuff coming up, and that's all based on marginal differences. So people gain from their ability to trade with one another. So when people trade stuff with each other, so they forgo something that they have for something that they don't have, or they give away something and gain something else, it is based on the trade-off opportunity cost. The competition results in gains from trading. So basically, this gains in trading is what causes the competition. You want to gain as much as possible from the trade-off, as much as possible gaining wherever you can, so you are able to succeed and be successful. So the trade allows people to specialize in what they do best. So basically, when you specialize in something, that helps you to focus on what you do best. If you're a good tailor, if you focus on what you do best, which is tailoring, it helps you to be a good tailor, and then you can trade off your services with some other services, or the money you get from your services and get some other services from somebody else. So that's the way it works. You got to do something, and that will bring you services or money, or at least money, and money will help you any other services that you need. So specialization is an important aspect in business economics. What is a market economy? Market economy is an economy that allocates resources to the decentralized decisions of many firms, households, and they interact in market with goods and services. So market economy is actually like big place. Big place and stuff is happening. So basically, they are not centralized decisions. So the market does not decide for those who are in the market, the households, the factories, all those that make their own decisions. But all these decisions are happening in the market. So market is actually the place where these stuff are happening all the time. So households decide what to buy and who to work for. And firms decide who to hire and what to produce. So if you look at it, you'll see that our market, our economy is actually like it's like a place where everything is happening. Look at it like a soccer, like field, soccer court, right? So where people are playing. So that place, that stadium, the soccer stadium, is where the game is happening. So all those players and audience and everything are those parts of that event. So the stadium does not decide for which team to win or lose, and which player to pass the ball to the other, or which player to score the goal, or which goalkeeper to catch the ball and doesn't let the goal happen. All these happen in the stadium. So the stadium is the market. And all those players, all those audience, every single person has some decision to make. They make changes according to their situation. But they create that event, and the stadium is a stadium because of all these players. So that's how it is. So Adam Smith made the observation that the households and firms interact in markets as if guided by an invisible hand. So what do we mean by invisible hand? Because households and firms look at prices when deciding what to buy and what to sell. They are knowingly taking into account the social cost of their actions. So that invisible hand observed by Adam Smith, again, I'm receiving this no voice. I need to clarify that there is no voice. It's either because of your internet or because of your microphone. So thank you. So yeah, I was talking about the Adam Smith and his observation that people are paying prices is because they take into consideration the social costs. As a result, prices guide decision makers to reach outcomes and then tend to maximize the welfare of society as a whole. This is important. Welfare of society as a whole is a very important determinant in prices and in the market decisions and economic decisions. So the well-being of the whole society is at stake. You know, so when you are making decisions as a whole, the society well-being will be considered. And what do we mean by market failure? Market failure happens when the market fails to allocate resources efficiently. We just talked about it in a few slides ago that by efficiency, mean allocating the resources like the maximum amount of resources possible to the maximum amount of people who need it, right? So the efficiently doing it is called efficiency. But if you fail to do that, it's called market failure. And when the market fails or breaks down, the government can intervene to promote efficiency and equity. So most of the time, the government involvement, unless you have a corrupt government, that's a different story. But a healthy government only I focus on that. Only intervenes in the market. Only if there is a need to adjust the market, because the market has already failed. Because the market has not been efficient. The market has not been able to allocate the resources efficiently, and then they have not been distributed fairly. So then they come in. But for government that comes in without the market failing, that government, there's something wrong with that government. The government should not do it unless there's a need. I mean, that's the economical, business economics perspective and government involvement. So the government only gets involved if there's a breakdown. So then we talk about governments can sometimes improve the market outcomes. Yeah, don't forget, we need to give some credit to the governments. Like a couple of years ago, President Obama just bailed out the car industry in America. But the big car producers like Chrysler was going out. They were going bankrupt. They were losing the company because they were not able to attain the revenues they needed in order to survive. And the government got involved and bailed them out. So you have the government involvement, and sometimes it benefits. So we cannot deny that. So like an externality, which is the impact of one person or firm or actions on the well-being of the bystander. So most of the times, market failure is caused because of the externality. So the impact of one person or friends on the well-being of the bystander, or market power, which is the ability of a single person or firm to unduly influence the market prices. So this is when the market messes up. If the market is messing up the prices by some influence that is not necessary, that will mess up the market. Or the impact does not help the well-being or welfare of that other person. So these are when the government should not be involved. So the standard of living depends on a country's production. Back to that rule again. We just discussed it, and we said that the standard of living may be measured in different ways by comparing personal incomes or by comparing total market values of nation's production. This is GDP. We will discuss that. You hear that a lot in news. Talk about GDP, GNP. All these are very important for us to understand what they mean, how it compare, like the governments, the countries, their production, their market. We gotta understand that. And also by comparing personal income, they call it per capita income. When they say there is a per capita of income of $1,500 or whatever amount for that country, we are referring to the fact that in that country, if you average the salaries and income to the number of the people living there, everybody has an income of this much on average. These are how you will compare the markets, the nations, how they perform, how they're doing, if they're doing okay or not. Almost all variations in living standards are explained by differences in countries' productivities. So productivity is not something you want to just ignore. Productivity is one of the most important aspects of an economy. So productivity is the amount of goods and services produced for each hour of a worker's time. This is important. This is important because productivity is telling us how the living standard of countries are different. So productivity is a way of measurement of the performance or standard of living. So if you are looking at the productivity of a worker, how would you do that? It's the amount of goods or services. Let's say it's a product company. So it's the amount of product that worker produces in 1 hour of time. Or if it's a service company, the amount of service that worker produces within that 1 hour. Okay? So the standard of living may be measured in different ways by comparing personal. I think we backtrack. Yeah, this is redundant. Yeah, we discussed this one. So prices rise when the government prints too much money. Yes, we do have a productivity formula. We'll get to it later on. But for now, we're just covering the concepts of basic fundamental concepts of the business economics. So inflation is an increase in the overall level of prices in the economy. So I think all of you have already heard about inflation. Like they say, we have this many percent of inflation this year. What do we mean by that? It's basically the rises of prices, the overall level of prices in the economy. By increasing the overall level, what we call inflation. So one cause of inflation is the growth in the quantity of money. That's important to know. A lot of times governments are the victims or the culprits in the inflation because they print too much money. And that causes this inflation. When the government creates large quantities of money, the value of money falls. Because the money should be geared to some value, right? So let's say if you have this certain amount of dollars in your country, it's geared to certain value. So if your government prints too much money, like more than what value it should have, then it causes inflation. It causes increases in prices because people are getting paid more. Yes, Tamarone is the thing. And then they shouldn't be. So then you would be paying more money to get the same product. So you have increase in the prices, which is not necessarily something good. The Phillips Curve illustrates the trade-off between inflation and unemployment. So when we have lower inflation, we have a higher unemployment. This is important because in Phillips Curve, I mean, the common sense, the common belief is when you have lower inflation, you should have lower unemployment. But that's not the case, because when you have lower unemployment, means everybody's employed, everybody's making money. So in a sense, it's increasing the prices because people have more money. The government has to give them, or the companies have to give them more money because there are more people employed. And that causes something called inflation to a certain level. I mean, if the government prints too much money, that will cause a lot more inflation, like hyperinflation and stuff like that. But normally that's the case. So now I want you, first of all, is there any questions? Any questions so far? Okay. So now I want to give you, what is the main reason of market failure? Yeah, the main reason for market failure was when you're not able to allocate the resources, the maximum amount of resources to the individuals, or you maximize the benefits from the resources that you have. So this is, I want to give you a task in the class. So please explain the opportunity cost that we explained by using a personal example, a personal economic example. So spend a few minutes on working on that, and then we'll discuss it in the class, your answers. Okay? Take a few. Does anybody have any question on that? Do you understand the stats? Do you understand the question? Any questions on the task? Okay, since there's no questions. Okay, take a few moments, and we'll discuss your answers. Make sure you explain the benefits, the alternatives, what benefits you would get for first choice, and what benefits you would get for other choice, and try to cover all the alternatives that you lost using that other choice. So let's say if you chose to buy a car, explain all the other alternatives that you missed, as many as possible, okay? Spend a few minutes and we'll discuss on it. Okay, so let's see what's your answers on. Okay, so Mr. Miyako, I could earn a lot of money by working after high school, but I decided to study at the college. And doing that, I had to trade off the work and earn that in 7 years of your university study. So you decided to uh, study 7 years rather than work. So I could be a teacher in our school or work in the office, or I could earn a living and could have gained a lot of both. I decided to do that in college and invest in your education, so to be able to earn from it. So you gave up 7 years of earning that costed you $50,000. So you're happy that you did the university studies from which you learned more than ever. Choosing medicine was another trade-off for college studies. Very good. The war of Afghanistan and the economy problem cost me leaving my school when I was in 9th class and worked and survived for the past after 4 years I joined the school. We studied Faculty of Humanities, Economics, Journalism, Literature, or any bachelor degree with lesser years of study, and started work directly after graduation. In medicine. Your friend has just graduated from medical college and has been offered a job at one of the most hospitals. The job would pay $45,000 a year. However, his uncle, who runs a healthcare fitness center, sort of a position of $35,000. However, my friend wishes to enroll for a medicine research program at a foreign university, which would cost him $38,000, and eventually does so. He does as follows: number of economic alternatives, desired alternatives, next best alternative. Plan to start working with hospital of town for better income and solution for program. Very good, Mr. Muhammad Aziz, and very good, Mr. Miyako. I didn't get Ms. Shugufa Oria's answer yet, though. Ms. Oria, how about you? Are you going to tell us your answer as well? So I have Mr. Miyako, I have Mr. Muhammad Aziz. How about Mr. Nawabi? I don't have your answer either. Oh, yeah, I have it. Yes. It's about the war. Okay. Yeah, the only one who has not answered is Mrs. Shugufa. Very good understanding so far. Yes, it's great that we understand the basic concept of opportunity cost, how it works, how it's different from a general normal cost that we just look at. So it's not just the price, it's all these other alternatives that you could have chosen, but you decide to go for, and you choose. I'll send you the PowerPoint. I cannot send you the textbook. I can send you the syllabus where the name of the textbook is there, and you would be you have to purchase it yourself or borrow it from the library, like any library that you're a member of. So I won't be able to send you the book because I don't have the soft copy of the book. And according to, even if I had it, I would not be able to send it because of the copyrights. So I will definitely send you the PowerPoints, but I will not be able to send you the textbook. And you have to purchase it yourself. Okay. So, any questions so far? Any comments, any questions before we end this session? Sure, absolutely. I'll do that. So before we end, I want to also show you something. Okay. Okay. So let me show you this video. This will also give us some explanation of opportunity costs. So
today we're going to talk about opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is one of the big ideas in economics, and oftentimes students struggle to figure out exactly what it is that they should be working at and working through when solving a problem. So on the board behind me, I've got a simple example. where an individual would like to travel to see their family in Chicago. They've got two options that they're considering. They're considering taking a plane, which costs $300, but it only means that they have to spend 2 hours traveling each way. The train, on the other hand, costs less, but the amount of time it takes is 12 hours each way. And so the question here is, which mode of transportation should they take? In order to answer this question, we're going to have to break this down into two components. The first component would be, what are the financial savings by taking the train, as opposed to the opportunity cost of a person's time, the time lost by using the train instead of getting on the plane. So to help us here, we're going to look at the cost savings with the train first. And since the plane is $300, what we want to do is subtract off from that the $200 that would be spent if the individual gets on the train. And so if you get on the train, there's $100 in savings, just in terms of your financial outlay. The flip side of that is that the plane is going to save you time. And so you're going to end up spending 24 hours if you get on the train. We want to subtract from that the amount of time you would have spent on the plane. Of course, it's 2 hours each way, so that's 4 hours for the trip. And so when we subtract the 4 hours from the 24 hours, you can see that the time savings is 20 hours. So the plane saves you time, the train saves you cash. And it's that difference here that ultimately is really interesting to us, because we take the amount saved and divide it by the number of hours that it took to save that much time, you get $5 an hour. And that's the crucial number we're interested in this case. Because at $5 an hour, an individual considering this trip would be exactly indifferent between the plane and the train. The effective cost would be equal. Now, there aren't very many people who have a time value of money exactly equal to $5. Most of us have a time value of money that's much greater than $5 an hour. And so you would end up taking the plane because the amount of time you saved, if your time is for $10 an hour or $20 an hour, then the plane saves you a lot of time, and that time is valuable too. On the other hand, if you're unemployed, you've been laid off, you're on vacation, or you're a student who's out not in school at that moment, it may very well be that your time value of money is pretty low, in which case saving the $100 and taking the train might prove to be an attractive option. Now, I saw all of this with one very crucial thing in mind, that I don't view the train or the plane as being inherently better or worse than the other. So, for instance, if you happen to have a fear of flying, well, then that would alter the calculation we make here. If you happen to enjoy a long train ride and enjoy seeing the countryside, and that would be peaceful and relaxing to you, that would alter the calculation here. In economics, we always try to keep these outside variables off to the side, try to focus on the problem at hand, and we try to arrive at a number that gives us some benchmark for people making decisions. And when you arrive at something like $5 an hour, well, that tells you that that's really very consistent with the way the real world works. Even households with relatively low incomes typically fly if the journey is long enough, because the time savings bring the effective cost down to such a small amount that it becomes worth it for them to do that. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I hope it makes sense, and I'll see you again soon here at Office Hours. Take care.
Okay. So that was the explanation and on the difference and how to calculate the basically opportunity cost on two different options. So we can do that on any other option. We can absolutely choose which one to go for, which is best for you, which is not best for you. And just don't forget to send me that assignment just discussed in the class via email by end of tomorrow. Are there any questions, comments, questions? the task that you just did, your answers to your personal experience example on opportunity cost. Okay, and I'll send you the slide and the syllabus by basically before the next week, so you have the time to prepare the slides for the next session and the syllabus. And in the next few sessions, I'll give you the detail of your assignment. Thank you so very much, and it's great to have you back in the class, and I'll see you next week.